Hey guys. Not a lot of people know, especially the people that invited me to the festival, but I'm actually from Guayaquil, Ecuador. I'm so happy to be here. Super excited. Actually, one of the things that excited me the most was the fact that I actually had no clue there were going to be so many students. And my talk is about youth culture. So everything I'm going to talk about is actually targeting to you guys. It's talking to you guys. And I think you can do whatever you want with it. But it's meant to inspire you because I feel like everyone right here in this room is super lucky to be here because you've been getting access to amazing conversations with all these people. I've been learning a lot in the last 2 days. And the way that I got lucky, because I actually moved from Guayaquil when I was about 12, 13 years old. But my grandma, who's sitting right there, she took me to a casting for a commercial, actually for Pinguino, when Pinguino was switching from their Pinguino logo to the Heart logo. And I don't know how, but I actually got the spot. My little brother also got casted in another commercial. And I got lucky to be in this industry because she took me to that casting and I nailed it. And I was such a bad actor. The director was yelling at me. I was like, what am I doing wrong? I'm just eating an ice cream. And I went back home and I knew my dad kind of like dealt with advertising agencies because he worked on the client side at a company. And I just asked him, so what the hell just happened? Why was that guy yelling at me? Also, who was that cool guy that was drawing really cool things? And he told me that's called advertising. And then this was in 1999. He goes, yeah, it's an industry where people that don't know how to be economists or lawyers or doctors get to do and get paid for. So I was like, I think that's what I'm going to do. And I went all the way through high school. We moved to Costa Rica, and I was able to surround myself with a lot of creative friends, so like musicians. So I started learning how to play guitar. I was really bad at it. And then I started experimenting with different formats, so photography, film. I started writing songs that I couldn't sing either also. And you know, that kind of like asserted in my head that what I really wanted to do and what I was meant to do was some sort of storytelling driven vocation. So that's how I ended up in advertising, and yeah, it was all thanks to Kuma. So I just wanted to put that out there, and just, you know, the rest of the presentation, I feel like it wouldn't be fair for me to not share a little bit of how I got to the last 10 years of advertising leading to starting my own company in New York now. So, super quick intro. Right after college, one of my professors, and this is something that if you guys have access, if you have someone that you really admire, I highly recommend to stay in touch with them, especially a professor. Till this day, my mentor was my teacher in my last year of college, who sponsored my visa. I was able to get a green card a few years back, and till this day, at least once a year, I write him on his birthday or something just to check in and let him know what I've been up to. So I highly recommend you guys doing that. But he gave me my first internship through a friend at a Hispanic agency in Miami called Bromley. When I was there, I had no clue what I was doing, but they paired me up with an amazing writer, and we ended up winning the U.S. Hispanic market Young Lions competition. So in 2007, I went for the first time to Cannes. And I was so sad when we lost there because I won in the U.S. I thought I would win it all, and it was crazy. But it was, you know, it was such an amazing experience, and now I can appreciate it. But back then, I had no clue. I was super sad and depressed. So just so you guys know, because you're at the stage that you're at now, you might not be realizing the opportunities that you're being offered, and honestly, one of them is just being here surrounded with all these amazing speakers. So just be always alert in the opportunities because it can come in many different ways and shapes. So after that, you know, working in Hispanic advertising in the early, I would say 2007, 2006, it was a little tough because agencies, especially Hispanic, did not have that relationship with the clients yet. You know, the Hispanic market was starting to emerge, and you know, clients started to realize that it was going to be the secondary market. So basically, our role was to just translate commercials from English to Spanish. So when we would go on productions, it would just, you know, the annoying little group of guys just like waiting to switch casting with the actors that you casted for the Spanish version, and then literally just repeating the script. So I got a little bored of that and frustrated, and I was like, why should I be doing this? You know, I have way more to offer. And so I actually went to Miami Ad School for a year to be able to kind of like expand and shift my portfolio from all TV Spanish commercials for McDonald's to an American, more general market. I really wanted to explore ideas. That was about when digital was starting to take off. And I got my first job at Ogilvy and Mather in New York. I know Fergus also worked there. This is awesome. And what was great about that, and when I started to realize as soon as I got there, is that agencies kind of like have their own little expertise, and you never stop going to ad school. You end up learning so many things from all the different mentors and all the different people that you meet when you're at these amazing agencies. After 2 years of not producing work at all, I ended up going to 360i. We worked on a few campaigns. One of them was the Oreo campaign. And yeah, after that, I was like, okay, I've learned that at Ogilvy, it was all about mentorship. At 360i, it was all about using data to find insights and make ideas with purpose. And I was like, what else can I learn from all these other agencies that are in New York? So that was the first time I left my writing partner, to kind of like sponsor my own visa through my first company, which was a small little design studio. And I basically used that as an excuse for me to be able to freelance and go as a vendor to all these different companies. So I ended up at 72 and Sunny, Anomaly, worked at Vice a little bit on a YouTube campaign, and that led me to RGA, where I was able to get a job full-time on the Nike team for about a year and a half. And then after that, I was like, all right, what I learned at RGA was that technology can be used, and that's, for a lot of many different reasons, to innovate on a product, to change the life of someone in a place where they really need it. So a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit started to develop in me, and one of the guys that I was working with applied to the Google Incubator program. So I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And literally on my birthday, I believe it was 2015, I applied. I was just bored at home doing nothing because it's December 22nd. None of my friends are in New York, and it's just me and my family. And so I applied, and I got accepted, and I left RGA to go try that. And it was an amazing 3 months learning how to think from a business perspective, how to pivot, how to iterate, how to validate your idea, and how to make sure that what you're doing has a purpose. So. And then after that, I ended up getting a freelance a little bit with Apple in Cupertino. I was there for 6 months, which was an amazing experience. There's a book that I was reading while I was there called Insanely Simple by Ken Siegel that I highly recommend. Because it was actually crazy. It's about how Steve Jobs always drove everything through simplicity, and how every decision was about keeping things simple and making lives easier for everyone. And while I was there, obviously he wasn't there anymore, it was 2016, it was nothing like that. So I think that's something that we should always keep in mind, that when you keep things simple, it's better for everybody. All right, so after that, ended up at Milk Studios in New York City, working with a lot of young emerging artists. And that's when my idea came, and I kind of like started finding my purpose. I've always been surrounded by a lot of creative people, and I mean, obviously I am a creative person, I think we all are, but I really always aspired to be an artist. And what I realized, through all my iterations and trying and collaborating with people, was that I was really good at connecting people. So I decided to start Young Hero, which is it's a company that connects brands and emerging talent. Not just because of my passion for working and collaborating with these kids, but because I also realized that we are once again at a pivotal moment in this industry, which is that we're shifting from millennials to Generation Z. And not a lot of people are talking about. So Gen Z is everyone born from 1997 up. And that's basically the point of this entire presentation. A little fact on Young Hero, I don't know if anyone recognizes who the guy on the photo is, but that's Abdon Calderon. For people who are not from Ecuador, he led the army, the Ecuadorian army to independence against the Spanish people, and he died when he was a teenager, so his nickname is the Hero Boy, Hero Niño. So that's why we call the company Young Hero. It's all about facilitating collaborations between brands and emerging creators. Notice that I'm not saying influencers. Some of these kids that we're signing don't even have 1,000 followers. It's about through creativity and through their expression, and with the little tools that they have, how they're able to create such amazing content that brands should be paying attention. So that's just a little bit about Young Hero. So just to kind of like remind you guys, because we all talk about millennials, every single agency brief is about millennials, but let's just do a little summary on who millennials are. So this is all from Business Insider, so it's not my fault if it's wrong. So millennials, first of all, are idealistic. You know, we grew up, I'm including myself because I'm a millennial, we grew up with big dreams and like support from our parents and like, you know, always wishing to be doing the best that we can do, which is great. It's what keeps you, it's what drives you, it's what keeps you moving and what makes you successful. But at the same time, they're a little individualistic. It's not so much about collaboration. It's about if I'm collaborating with someone, what am I getting out of it? How can we create something? How can I get recognition for it? Also, they prefer the online experience. So we're kind of like one of the reasons why brick and mortar is going down. Retailers are having a hard place because, you know, we rather stay at home and shop online. Politically, we're also a little bit of passive, but you know, also thanks to millennials, we were able to elect a black president, the first black president in the United States, which is a huge step forward. And I'm not going to talk about the current situation. And then millennials are formally educated, which means that they have a lot of student debt, especially in the United States. So this is just a little bit of a recap. Now, everything you're going to hear from now on is about these guys. Actually, you guys. Gen Z. So Gen Z, in terms of mentality, they're very pragmatic. Now I can say they, because I am not a Gen Z. They're very pragmatic, they're very realistic. You know, they grew up during the depression of 2007, 2008. So they're more realistic about their money, their spends. You know, they really overthink and they make sure they're spending their currency, you know, their money in a very efficient way. But what's great about them, unlike millennials, is that they're collaborators. And you'll see a bunch of examples I'm going to show you. And also, even though they grow up in the digital age, they all connect in the real world. So that's why we have a lot of experiential things happening, events, brands tapping into real cultural moments. They're driven by social justice. It's not about being from one political party or the other. It's not about red or blue. It's not about Democrats, Republicans. It's all about what makes sense. Like, if you see someone in the street getting beaten, you know that's wrong. So it's all about logic, and which I think it's a beautiful way to think about everything in general. And the last just point to summarize them is that they learn by living. It's all about the experiences. So in the next few slides, I'm just going to show you how all these behaviors are shifting their perspective. So they're extremely inclusive. They don't see race, they don't see color, they don't see genders. They are all about what can this person who I engage and connect with, what are they bringing to the table, and how can this person make me better? They're extremely collaborative. One example, this photo is actually my first project that I did at Milk Studios, in which we gave this guy with a Fanta, Lucas Abad. He's known for being Kanye's first model for his Yeezy Adidas collection. But him and this guy right here, Noah Dillon, he's a young photographer from Colorado. They met online through Twitter. And during Fashion Week, Milk Studios didn't want to, keep doing regular fashion shows. We wanted to do something different. So we basically gave Luca the keys to our gallery to do whatever he wanted with it. And he said, well, I've been chatting with this guy from Twitter for a long time. I would love to give him the gallery and give him his first show. So Noah at the time was about 21, 22 years old, and Luca was 19 years old, and they put together the most insane party in New York during Fashion Week that brought people like Tyler, the Creator, who's in Odd Future, obviously Kendall Jenner. And it was an amazing way to see how digital connections and people that meet through the internet can come together in the real world to do something amazing. I just said that, but I think it's great to reiterate. They don't see gender. It's not about, being a man, being a woman, or being a transsexual. It's about what is this people intellect bringing to the table. What's great about this and ignoring gender roles and all that is that you create an environment of equal opportunity for everybody, which I think is an amazing thing. When everything is, everyone just leaves their biases out of the table for the sake of creativity, it's honestly the best way to approach it. And especially in New York, you're seeing it in the creative community a lot. And I think if the entire world starts using this as an exercise, we would be at a way better spot. Another thing is that they're growing up with these amazing mentors, like, for instance, Evan Spiegel started Snapchat when he was about 22 years old. He's now, I believe, 27 or 28. And, by just being on the internet and growing up with these young kids and seeing what they can do, as opposed to someone like Bill Gates, or like Steve Jobs, someone that I grew up with admiring, I can be like, why can't I go tomorrow and start my company? And I know the Startup Talk mentioned something like that, which is, I think, extremely encouraging. And what that is creating, seeing all these entrepreneurs and all these amazing people doing amazing things at a very early age, is that it's turning and shifting in Generation Z kids this freelance mentality, which is awesome. Because, it's way better to have 2 or 3 jobs doing something you love than having one job that you don't necessarily love, but you just do it because you need to, make ends meet. So this example is one of our artists. She's Half Pepper. She's a 21-year-old girl from Paris. She's a stylist and photographer for a company called V-Files, very in the fashion streetwear industry. But she's killing it in New York. She doesn't have huge following, but she just works with the right people. So the result of all this is that, oh my God, what happened? Is that they're becoming creators, right? And more specifically, do-it-yourself creators. They don't need huge production budgets to make amazing things, which is why brands are starting to tap into this network. This is another one of our guys, Half of Nothing. He's a 22-year-old who's now a creative director for Adidas Originals in New York, originally from New Zealand. He has around 100,000 followers, and this is the kind of stuff that he can do with just his iPhone and After Effects. So again, this is only using his iPhone and After Effects later on at his apartment. So the other amazing thing is that, because these kids are driven by social justice and all that, is that they're becoming activists. There's an amazing example, obviously, of the Women's March that is happening and like bringing all this level of equality and really getting into the mind. I actually had never seen the award the guys just got for the maiden name, which I thought was awesome. So yeah, this is just super important, how this generation is really shifting the conversation and changing the perspectives and actually innovating finally and evolution from an evolution point of view. And they're also becoming voices, and sometimes it's for the wrong reasons. Obviously, I think you guys know about Emma Gonzalez, one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting. Sometimes, things that affect a positive change have to come from negative places, which unfortunately this is one of the reasons, but she's just become such a strong voice that will probably change gun laws in the United States. And then here's where it starts getting a little bit scary and also really exciting. It's that these kids are becoming brands. This is Kid Super. He's a streetwear designer. He started his company at New York University. And he actually got kicked out for turning his dorm into a showroom. But what's amazing is he's only 24 years old, and right now a bunch of big hip-hop artists are wearing it, including J Balvin. He just designed an entire collection of onesies for him. And brands are starting to do collaborations with these guys, which is amazing. And this is a really scary thing. They're already calling themselves ad agencies. This is Brockhampton. They're a group of kids, there are about 14 of them, who met on a Kanye West Reddit forum because they were all fans of Kanye West. And one day they were all like, hey, why don't we all get together and just start brainstorming stuff? And they created Brockhampton. You guys should definitely follow them. They're amazing. This is literally an interview they had on Essence, which is a fashion blog. And the headline says, enter the Brockhampton Dream Factory, hanging with a 14-person boy band that wants to be an ad agency. So what this tells me is that these kids know what advertising is. They know the format of the voiceover, the little, nice scenario, the tagline, the logos, and for them, it's bullshit, honestly. So I think we need to start learning from them and adapting what advertising means and what it should look like in the future. So one of the first brands that they started collaborating with was Converse, and they did an insane campaign, all directed, shot, and performed, and obviously they were also the people, the influencers being portrayed, but all made by them. Converse just literally gave them the shoes, they gave them the brand, the logo, the assets, whatever they wanted, and they created their own films, and they had complete creative freedom to create. And honestly, from a brand's perspective, what you're getting is literally a 24/7 commercial. Because when kids go to their shows, they're wearing Converse. When kids, see them on the streets, they're wearing Converse. When they're posting just random social media stories, they're wearing Converse. So they're creating brand ambassadors, just like, the NBA does with LeBron, or like Nike does with LeBron, or like how the Masia in Barcelona, from an early age, they start taking care of their kids. So they're becoming brand ambassadors for life, in a way. So I just mentioned that they did grow up in the digital age, but what's amazing is that they connect in the real world. And that's why right now you're seeing a lot, and this is where kind of like millennials and Generation Z kind of start mixing with each other. But there's obviously a lot of music festivals. You start seeing brands tapping and creating physical experiences there. You have things like South by Southwest, which are not just about driving innovation, but it's also a great way for people in the real world to come and interact with brands and get to experience the future. And then that starts leading into things like the Museum of Ice Cream, which is kind of ridiculous. But, we all live in this digital area, and it's all about creating beautiful environments around so that you can post and that your Instagram looks amazing. But again, it's all about bringing that, bringing you from digital to your friends that you meet on digital to connect in the real world, and then bringing it back to digital. And then you have also tentpole moments like Art Basel. Actually, this was one of the most amazing installations that I saw when I was there, and it was actually by a brand called COS. It's a Swedish brand owned by H&M. And they said, we have to shoot a lookbook, why not also have people hang out around it? So that is a lookbook that they shot, but it was an installation. These were like bubbles with vapor that were falling, and it was an amazing Instagrammable moment. So that's why you see things like that, experientials, that kind of like took over for the last 3 years. But experiential is dying, as we all know. This entire week, last few days, we've been talking about content. So Gen Z are the main drivers of content. And the reason being is because everything they create is so authentic. And brands right now, especially targeting them, are having issues kind of like connecting with their demographic, because like I said, these kids know what an advertising is. They know when they're being sold to. And they don't like it. So what's amazing in the way that they create is that they have this idea of borrowed nostalgia. They did not grow up, with camcorders or with film photography, but they're shooting film. They go on YouTube and they learn. This is another example, Miles Lofting, 18-year-old, when we started working with him. He's now 20 years old, but only shoots on film. They shoot music videos on VHS. This is one example. This girl is Lolo Suai. She's an up-and-coming hip-hop girl.
Walk me to the deli for late-night candy runs. What we have is good, it's so fun. You're my Brooklyn love.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until yesterday. It was hilarious. So this is what we call youth culture back in New York. And I think is something that if we start thinking of it this way here, we can be doing amazing things. Because I see, like, especially for the students, I think that there's two routes you can go, and I think they're both awesome. because I guess in a way I'm doing both. One route is like you can go to an ad agency and learn and really change the industry the way that's always been. And obviously it changes every 5-6 years. But you guys have an opportunity, especially with this new demographic, to change all this. And the reason is because they're actually already surpassed millennials and baby boomers. They're actually the leading market in the world out there. So it's an exciting opportunity. It's, you guys are basically living and breathing. And then the second route that you can do is you can actually go and become one of these creators. You literally can just use your phone and learn a couple of things on YouTube and just start creating. So that's kind of like what I would love to challenge you guys to think about. And because of all this stuff that I just told you guys, this is why exactly brands are jumping in. And there's a thing that is happening with social media. I don't know if you guys have read this book. If you haven't, read it. It's super easy read. It's really awesome. It's all by examples. And it's how very niche little cultures can have a huge impact. So one of my favorite examples in this book, it's actually two. One of them, and they're both about shoes, weird. One of them is the whole story of how Airwalk became Airwalk. They were just a little, company in the States, and how if you put the right shoes in the right person, and then that person knows the right people, there weren't even influencers. Like obviously back then there was no social media, but if those people, are hanging out with the right crowd that makes complete sense for your product, you can create this kind of like wildfire effect and start influencing, and that's how your brand can grow. And because of social media, what's happening is that tipping points are happening everywhere, at all times, in different feeds. Before, it was just in the streets, when someone would go wearing hush puppies in the 70s or 80s, which were not cool at all, in a party in the Lower East Side, but someone's stylist was there, and it became a huge sensation right after that. This is happening every day with social media, and this is why brands need to start thinking of how can we work with the right creators, not necessarily the celebrities that have huge followings, but the people that have the right kind of attitude and the same values as our brand, and then almost like start sponsoring and supporting them and just collaborating with them. I had to talk shit about one ad, so I chose my own because I don't want to talk shit about people. But concepts and great ideas and great ads are no longer enough. And actually, because what I was saying, like Generation Z actually understands. They know when you're being sold to. But what's amazing is that it's all about creating very niche cultures. And I have actually one more case study. This is actually a collaboration between this recording studio from Atlanta called Love Revolution, or Laverne, and Reebok. And they literally made only 200 pairs of these shoes, or like 500 pairs of these shoes. And they sold out obviously in minutes, but these shoes are now being resold on eBay for twice the price. And again, they let them shoot everything. They let them put it in the right people. More than actually shooting TV spots or videos, they were in music videos, and there were live shows and concerts, because they often do showcases of their artists. So it's another really cool way of integrating your product with an actual mission and with the right people to kind of like make Reebok cool again. And what's basically happening is that brands, you're going to start seeing that brands are going to be kind of like employing the Supreme model. Supreme is a skateboard brand in the United States that has been around since the 90s. And all they do is capsule collections. So they collaborate with anyone, even the people, the brand or the product that you least expected, it's a Supreme collaboration. So from sports stuff to, lighters, there's like some knives there, which is terrible. But any collaboration is a good collaboration. And then there's these 3 reasons why I believe brands should really start looking into this, and they are. One of them is because brands constantly, because kids understand advertising and can call it out, there's a need for cultural relevance from a brand perspective. This is an example that Havas Chicago did, in which they paired up Little Yachty with Chef Boyardee, and it's an insane video that you guys should go watch it. I didn't want to play it. The second one, which I think is probably one of the most amazing things, is that creators are kind of like the new insight. And just to give you an example, Kid Super, which is one of the artists that we work with, he is obsessed with soccer. He actually played 2 years of soccer in Brazil. He loves Ronaldinho. Every single label of t-shirts that he does like a little Ronaldinho illustration. And that's why right now we're working with him and with a potential Major League Soccer collaboration. It just makes so much sense, you know? As opposed to getting some random people to show up to a stadium, why not partner with someone like Kid Super who actually has a touch in culture and who's actually a really insanely talented soccer player too. And then the last thing is the search for authenticity. And that all comes by generating content that feels authentic to the creator, as opposed of me as an advertising creative producing something with a production company, then giving it to Kid Super to post. It makes no sense. So the role of the modern agency, which is sort of what we are as Young Hero, is just simply orchestration and connecting the dots, you know? And also curation, being able to know and identify from an inside perspective, which creator is perfect for this brand. And that allows us to work with any brands. We're not, you know, we don't have to just work with one single kind of like industry. We can work with any brands because our creators come from all different backgrounds, all different interests and stuff. So it's just a great way to think about it. And the second thing that an agency can do is simply let creators create. And obviously, you can always think of the ideas and the insight and what's the big idea and the concept, but then ask them, Kid Super, for you, what does this concept look like? And then I go to a girl like Ilana who makes t-shirts, and it's like, what does it look like? Because for Kid Super, it might be a stop motion video. For her, it can be a t-shirt collection. And then I just want to end the talk just by showing you guys a case study. I actually did this one right before I left Milk, knowing that we were going to do this. And basically, Kid Super had just finished this collection that you see here. It was for New York Fashion Week in 2017. And Nike gave us just a pair of unreleased pair of Air Force Ones. So we're like, we're going to do this video. I'm going to let Kid Super direct it. I'm going to bring the team. The photos were shot by a 19-year-old kid from Delaware University that drove all the way down the weekend just to shoot it. These are the shoes. They were completely unreleased. And the video you're going to see was directed by Kid Super and one of my students who was actually 20 at the time. I believe he's 22 now, or 21. And I let them do everything. At the end, I just said, this looks amazing. And you can see the power in their creation.
They took it to 10. Step, pick it super. I got my cool up. I give them energy. I get them boost up. Step, pick it super. Back from the future. I like Versace, but this is not Medusa. Step, pick it super. Back from the future. I like Versace, but this is not Medusa.
Puffer jacket on, feeling stronger than the wind. Get like me, you should get like me. That's how you win. Walk up in this bitch with different season shit. While you freezing, I'm a different heater tip. All you see is him. Higher power shit, expensive garments. I'ma go retarded every time I'm lit. Start the party, I'ma get the Audi. I'ma run with shorty when I step all in. Hey.
Step, pick it super. I got my cool up. I give them.
So,
That was great.
I was like, do we have to keep that? They're like, yes. I was like, okay. And just to give you guys a little taste of what you guys can do, you can obviously go the agency route, which is awesome, and you know if that's your mind, but you can also go out there and create. This kid, Mikey Juan, he's a 3D game designer who actually worked with me on a little video for Sophie Tucker. He was still at Parsons at the time. This guy, Kyle Sauer, he used to work at Giphy. He just makes GIFs all the time. He's an amazing director. Blue the Tiger, 20-year-old bassist for a band back in New York. Ilana DeMarco, she's a streetwear designer, and she also works for a company that designs all the merch T-shirts for like concerts like Kanye West, like the 1975, Chance the Rapper, and all that. We have musicians like Reese Lavie, who's only 21, even though I don't know why he looks older than me, but he's awesome. And, you know, Patricia, we have Joko Graves, who's a photographer. This kid from Studio Was from Austin, Texas, who moved to New York just to do paper mache, and he's working with A$AP Rocky right now. And yeah, I think, I cannot forget this kid, Justin Fuller. He's 18 years old, starting a magazine in New Jersey. And it's just amazing what you can do today, especially with all the resources that you have. So I encourage you guys to do that. So yeah, now we can do questions in Spanish. Thank you, guys.